We're going to get started now, and if you feel like you need to grab some food or drinks or use the bathrooms, you should just feel free to do that anytime. This is pretty informal. My name's Jack Beckridge, and I'm the unofficial lead of the Public Art Scrambler group that's having our very first public art mixer here at Fire Art Center. Yay! And let's just give a great deal of thanks to the Fire Art Center for hosting. Marquise, thank you so much for this pilgrimage we had around George Floyd Square. Amazing. I know we could have stretched another hour of that. Easy. And now
there's community meetings every morning at 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. if you ever want to come on through,
Okay, and I'm super grateful to be able to introduce our roundtable guests here tonight, which it's mind-boggling to me that we're so fortunate to be able to have this group here for us. And if everybody's okay with it, and if you are all okay with it, we'd like to record this because we know a limited number of people could come to this. I think it's a really important conversation, and this will help us share the story. If anybody doesn't want us to record or doesn't want to be part of it, please let us know, and we'll seat you in the van. Okay, so with us today we have Christopher E. Harrison, who's a fine artist, public artist, graphic designer, based out of the Twin City. He's exhibited his work at art venues locally, nationally, and internationally. Originally from Springfield, Ohio. He has a BFA from the Columbus College of Art and Design in Columbus, Ohio. And he's working on his graduate degree in fine art from the Art Academy, University in San Francisco. Well, that sounds cool.
Well, I already have it.
He's currently an art educator at the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis. And his studio is located in North Minneapolis neighborhood where he creates paintings, drawing, sculpture, and collage. Then we have Christopher Aaron Deans. He's a metal enamel artist who spent years playing several roles in public art and education. His work brings a poetic worldview through a lyrical painting style and a narrative approach to the portraiture of diverse populations. He is driven by connecting people and the community through a lens of humanity. His experience brings expertise in facilitating community engagement sessions through his education and fabrication knowledge of metal enameling. Third, we have Asa Israel, Ace Rice. He's a Minneapolis-based multidisciplinary artist and founder of Plot Gallery, which we walked by.
Okay.
His work amplifies underrepresented voices and blends pop art, tribal influence, and Black storytelling traditions. Rice has curated major events, including Flow Northside Arts Crawl and the Minneapolis Mosaic, while his own practice explores permanence, identity, and collective memory. You already met Marquise Bowie. He's transforming street energy into community energy and putting the neighbor back in the hood. If you know the South Side, you know Marquise. He doesn't just show up, he builds bridges, he asks hard questions, and he makes sure young people feel seen, heard, and honored. He's father of two, a husband and deacon at Macedonia Baptist Church. He's a cultural ambassador, storyteller, roller skater, mentor, co-founder of the Agape movement, and author of The Last Drop of Mad Dog 3030, which he has copies of. Next up, Jordan Hamilton. He's a multidisciplinary artist based in the Twin Cities, bridging spirit, aspirations, and connections to earthly transformations and expressions. Jordan's work reflects realities, explores cosmic and elemental energies through abstract and surrealist paintings, murals, iconography, sculpture, collage, textile, mixed media, and sonic art. Jordan is a community/teaching artist, including enamel for muralists right here at KFAP, a founding member of Power of Vision Mural Project, and Creatives After Curfew Mural Collective, as well as a member of the Million Artists Movement and Voice of Culture. And he's also the creator of Ancestral Aspects Adornment. I don't know how he has the time for all of that, but you'll find out more. And next we have Antonio Popeye Jenkins. He's an entrepreneur and muralist who identifies himself as a community artist known as Popeye Not Picasso, who was born and raised in Minneapolis. He's contributed to most of the art pieces in George Floyd Square, as well as the street portrait of George Floyd that we just walked by, as well as the Bethany Community Center and other surrounding establishments in the neighborhood, as well as mentoring and teaching art through Pledge. And last but not least, Heather Lazaire. She's founding and artistic director of KFAC. She's been inspired by fire as a creative and empowering tool since her first industrial art class in high school. And after working, well, you know her story a little bit because she already told you a little bit.
Hey.
But she's also served on the Minneapolis Arts Commission and continues to contribute to the creative sector through educational partnerships, sculpture fabrication, and emerging artist mentorship. So we just want to hear a round of these amazing, let's hear this amazing rankings. What I've asked them to do, because I'm hard-ass at timekeeping, is take 5 minutes each, just to say a few words about where they're at right now, what they think about what's going on at George Floyd Square, their relationship to it, or here at the Fire Arts Center. And then I'm going to get us going with a conversation with them, and then open it up to Q&A, and we'll go for as long as we can, because at 7 o'clock, we're going to shut down. Okay? Everybody okay with that?
Get it.
All right, let's do this. We're going to go in the same order I introduced you. So that means we're starting with Christopher Harris.
Okay,
Christopher.
okay, what was the question?
Introduce yourself.
I already introduced you.
Okay,
You
okay,
have 5 minutes to say what you want. If you have
Okay.
some images you want to show.
Yeah,
you
let me
can
know
run
if you
them.
want me to go back to.
okay.
Yes, boy.
Yeah, you can go back to the elements.
Elements.
Yeah,
All
which
right.
is that piece right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that piece is in the public service building downtown, which is across the street from the government center, the one that goes over the street. And this was quite a project, and this was done here at KFAC. And I specifically remember standing up there and looking at all those pieces put together, because that's 3 layers of metal and glass and computer parts and all kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting to think about that now, but that's been up there like for about 3 years, I think.
Wow, 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah.
You have to see it in person because it's animated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the lights do a
I should mention,
rotation.
we're hoping to have another Scrambler event at this site with Minneapolis Arts Commission hosting.
Oh, wow. That's good.
I will give it a tour.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, but I brought this up specifically because the day before George Floyd, was murdered, I was actually here working on this piece, and I had gone over to the Cup, well, now it's Unity Food, but it's Cup Foods to get something to eat, after I left working here, and it was chaos in there. It was a lot of chaos in there. I got my thing, and I was like, okay, I get something to eat and get it home. And then the next day, I heard all about something was going on in South Minneapolis and all that stuff, and I was like, wow, I was just there, and so there's really a lot of gravity, to that that point in time and what aspired after that, but it's important that we stay creative, we stay strong, we stay vigilant, to keep being creatively free. And also, free for ourselves and all of the people who live here and in our, in our country. I think that's really important. And art can do that. Art can do that. Art can, open your mind, get you out of your space, if you feel concealed, and become, your best self for yourself and for all the people around you. So I think that's, important that, this space is here, Victoria's doing what she's doing. What everybody here, all these people sitting up here, and you too, who come out and support us. What Heather's doing, all of us here is a very important space and time, okay? Because we're here because we're really about, that freedom. So yeah, and I've been, on the board, I'm a board member here. I don't know how long I've been working with you guys, probably like 10 years or so.
Oh, that's 24.
Time
Eleven.
This is a good time.
Yes.
Is this 2013?
Yeah, so, and I've been fortunate enough to do probably about like 7 or 8 projects with you guys. And trying to do some more. So yeah, I'm really supportive to KFAC and really appreciate that as part of my life.
That's awesome. Okay, we're gonna go on now to Christopher and Dean.
I don't know how to follow that up. You can stop at that piece right there.
Right there?
No, back to another one. All right, you can go back to the one you just had. So, my connection to Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center was here, the Bigger Seed project, which is the project that's overseeing 35W on Olsen Memorial Highway. And so Christopher Harrison and I, along with several other artists, Jordan was also part of this project where there were 13 artists commissioned by the city of Minneapolis to do this project that is replacing Dr. Bigger's project that was a mural that the city tore down, and then they realized, oops, we made a mistake, and let's stick some money to the side, and then they years later, decided to try to replace it. But they wanted to replace it by doing it in enamel. So they at that point, they were in conversation with Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center, and these ladies to try to figure out a way to bring in some enamelists and to build the kiln that's behind you here, and to have them host us in this process of learning as well as fabricating this big project. Near the tail end of this project, you go to the next slide, was the murder of George Floyd. And so my wife and I, like 2 days prior, like Christopher Harrison says, I had just left Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center working on another project. And so I was working on another project called the Big Book Project at the time of this. And I was in here working, left, went home, and George Floyd was murdered right outside the front door. And my wife was like, well, what are we doing? What were we gonna do? And so I called some friends at Wet Paint, and they gave us canvas, and I called these ladies up, and I'm like, can we just have the community do some art? Because we thought, no, we gotta respond somehow, right? And so I started the creation of this mural called Christopher Harrison Came Out. Several other artists that work in our collective, nonprofit, the Rojo Collective. They came out and we were painting, we had the community write, and you see this young lady over here, this little girl that walked up with a marker, she said, please stop killing us. She wrote that with the little marker and walked away, and it crushed me. But this was like, for me, a clear understanding, because I'm an educator, and I evolve in a lot of spaces that deal with humanity. And so, as well as all of these panelists, it really shook me, but it positioned me to understand that this work can't happen in public art without us being intentional. Looking at people in the eye and perceiving who they are, and then perceiving who we are, and actually addressing it, with some honesty. And so that really took us into this space, and that mural was generated. It was the first piece of artwork that was created, public artwork that was created as the uprising happened, and it just really shook us, as as a community. But that was kind of my first 10 years connected, and I've like 6 projects later, public art projects later in public art. As you can see, there's Black Lives Matter mural in North. There's the Big Book Project there at the bottom. But yeah, that work continues. I'm an administrator with Anderson Middle School down the street. So, and this is the last thing I'll say is that as we continue to do public artwork that addresses society and community and people and processes, we're continuing to see adjutants, right? And so ICE is already in our community. If you don't know that, ICE has been in our community for at least 4 weeks now. And there's been all kinds of documented things that's happening. And being an administrator of the school, we get alerts. ICE is 1 block from your school. We serve 60% Hispanic kids in our community, right? And so it's happening right now. It's not going to be televised. It wasn't televised the right way, as Marquis said earlier, you know, and as King Demetrius said over there, that it was told that we were the ones burning up our own community, and it wasn't true. I saw the propane tanks, and I saw the trucks full of white men that were tearing up our community and bombing stuff. And so I don't want to belabor or be too long with it, but I'll leave it at that. So.
Yes. I probably should have put more art into my slides. Long story short, I'm born and raised in the neighborhood. I was born on basically 39th and Park, so right across the street on the kitty corner. Phelps Park. Grew up on 39th and 3rd, right by Sabathany, right there. So really connected to the neighborhood. Kind of all I knew for the first 20-something years of my life. Family's been in the neighborhood for 80-something plus years, and in the Twin Cities for 163 years. So this is, for a lot of us, this is my dad's side of the family. Like, this is all we know since we came straight out of Emancipation Proclamation, out of slavery, the Twin Cities. And I think a lot of that has been rooted in the work that I do. So I spent the last 20 plus years building businesses and brands, mostly in the kind of consumer space. So selling sneakers, selling backpacks, selling rap music, selling a bunch of stuff. And after 20 years, I realized that the method and the methodology that we use in the consumer industry, a lot of ways, just continuously leaves Black people with the least, and everybody else walks away with a lot of our pie. I say that using specifically like the music business is a great example where an artist signs to a record label, and when you sign to a record label, you're literally signing 80 or 95% of your rights away to where they own the record, and now you walk away with 5, 10, or 15% royalty, right? And so we'll never close the disparity gap if we keep giving away 80, 90% of our ownership, IP, of our rights in our creative process, and we keep walking away with 5 or 10% or 15% at most. And so I kind of had a deep reflection on my life and realized, like, yeah, I'm looking to kind of break that cycle. Yeah, so I don't know. That was my introductory statement. If you go to my first slide, sorry, one more. Cool. All right. So where I'm at now is I have an agency. I started my own agency. I have a creative agency, creative strategy. I recently did the whole creative and remessaging positioning for the Minnesota Freedom Fund. They're going through a transition where they're not focused on bailing people out, but looking to do more high-level policy change work. And so I'll show you'll see a slide of that. Then I also have an art gallery, Plot Gallery, which is across the street as well. I started the Plot Gallery in Uptown Minneapolis in 2014, and quickly expanded from my first location and ended up moving to a big warehouse by the Minneapolis Impound Lot. I really just love sharing art and stories from like our local community of artists, and I think it's just a great opportunity to share kind of like some of my information and allow it to like the younger folks that trying to explore their creative space and through my gallery. And then lastly, Kamboa, it's a land trust that I started, essentially a community land trust, really rooted in the idea and principle that I know, like, as Black folks, we always create value, whether it's an empty parking lot or a restaurant or a clothing brand or a soundtrack. We can always create value, but we rarely ever have the ownership. And so the idea behind Kamboa, the land trust, is like fundamentally we need to start with ownership first, and then all said great ideas can come from that. And that's specifically rooted, and we think about 38th in Chicago. I think one of my like biggest disappointments is 5 years later, Black ownership hasn't increased on 38th in Chicago. $300 billion was spent on the back, or pledged to the Black community on the back of George Floyd, and somehow Black ownership hasn't increased on 38th in Chicago, in the least at all, really. And so I think fundamentally, kind of my purpose and how I want to work going forward is that we need to be in an ownership position first, and then from there we can make all the cool things happen in the world. And so you can kind of click through real quick. I'll try to briefly share just a couple of things I've been working on. So I did the repositioning creative strategy for launch with Stackwell, which is a fintech app owned by a black entrepreneur here in Boston. He actually sponsors the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is the image in the middle of the campaign I created for the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And then on the far left, I did the creative strategy and launch for Thrive Health AI, which is the AI health company that Sam Altman, owner of ChatGPT, and Ariane Huffington are launching or just launched. So this is just an example of the work I do with my agency. Go to the next slide. Plot gallery. I think for me, outside of sharing art, one of the most important things that we do is doing sit downs. We do artist talks, so with the artists and community members, we do it real intimate like this, where people can have direct access to have communication and conversation with some of the leaders in our artistic community. So we got Bobby Rogers there, who's the head of creative design for the MIA, Lisa Kelly, who's the head of the Memorialize the Movement, and Gabrielle Greer, who was running African American Leadership Forum, as well as Juxtaposition, all sitting down, ready to be in community with a bunch of young folks that ask all the questions they want. And then next slide is just kind of talks about Camboa, the land trust, kind of give you an idea, really trying to take a big picture view on the whole intersection of the community and figure out how can we program, so we identify all the properties that are available for sale and really just trying to move forward, and how do we make sure that black folks own those properties going forward. And then the last slide is kind of the newest chapter of my life, which is public art. I just became an artist probably 4, 5, 6 years ago. One of my friends passed away, and it motivated me to try something new, and art was the thing I started to try. So these are 3 things that I finished this year, public art commissions. One is in the Dayton's project, so if you go through the Skyway, the Dayton's building downtown, I have a piece in there. Trailhead at Deerwood Park, Lapid, purchased a piece in there. And then lastly, I did the mural on A&J's Fish and Chicken on Lake Street in 5th. So if you're in the area, feel free to check those out. Sorry, that was long with it.
Born and raised in Southside Minneapolis. I live a couple blocks away now. One of my things was really just being one of the public safety advocates and mentoring. Being what I needed at a young age, I was the only child, so my thing is to really try to reach a lot of the youth. I work at Roosevelt High School as a security monitor and a girls' flag football coach. My art is writing. I wrote a book that came out 2 months ago, but it was going back to 1990 when one of my cousins / best friend got killed, and just holding on to that trauma that I was holding on to. Drugs, gangs, and all that things took a hold of me because I didn't know how to vent in other ways. So part of my art is sharing creative writing. So I'll share a piece called "The Embarrassing Moment" that happened literally in this alley, probably 1991-ish. And we were going to the Boys and Girls Club, which is now the Baja, and it was a piece I called "Embarrassing Moment." Being at the Boys and Girls Club when I was growing up was the ideal place to be. Plenty of things to do to stay out of trouble, and plenty of young girls to see. Somehow this girl named Tina and I had gotten hooked up. Now, I knew Tina from being around and seeing her at the roller guard skating rink, but I didn't think that she liked me. And in all honesty, I don't know if I really even liked her. I mean, she was double pretty. A light-skinned girl with good hair in the late 80s was a hot commodity back then. Her other pretty attribute was that she was pretty tall. I was 5 feet nothing, left to the imagination. She was at least 6 feet tall. So whoever our agent was that hooked us up was the unlikely pair. Then even went a step further to hook us up for our first kiss. I think it was 3 or 4 of us who crossed the street from the Boys and Girls Club and went halfway into the alley. It was one of the most awkward moments in my life, the most at the time. It reminds me of something that you'd see in the National Geographic show, a monkey trying to kiss a giraffe. We are standing around looking goofy, then our agent gives us the word, but me being so short, I couldn't go gadget my neck to reach hers. So we had to rearrange the scene to fit the mood. Basically, I had to stand on the garbage can to get my first kiss. And you know, just being one of the community advocates. I was also part of the arts and culture through the 38th district, through the city of Minneapolis. So I was trying to get the other art groups to get together every quarter to try to see how we can, bring more art to the community. So working and being with somebody like Popeye and Picasso to try to uplift this young brother who was a relative of mine, and just trying to give him a platform. And again, for me, as an only child, is being what I needed at a young age. Vote for sale, vote for sale.
And let me know if there's anything in particular you want.
You can leave it on that one.
Crossroads?
That's fine, yeah. Just because, so I'll say that, firstly, I'm raised in Minneapolis. I've been in the Powderhorn neighborhood right near George Floyd Square for the, y'all hear me in the back? Speak up a little bit. Oh, thank you. So I've been in the neighborhood collectively about 7 or 8 years. It's a few blocks from here. And for me, like, the power of art has been like the power to be able to like understand how to focus one's energy and the power that can have, and being an artist has taught me how to do that, from an early age. I've been doing art, and the thing that kind of catalyzed me into having a practice was a certain form of public art, but it's not commercially, now it's commercialized, but I was doing graffiti, I was doing street art growing up as a teenager, and that really taught me a lot. It taught me how to like develop a practice, how to focus and hone in on like honing a craft. I was really obsessed with that, my peers, so it also gave me like a positive outlet to focus my energy on, and it taught me a lot about interacting with folks and also how things work, because as far as what's acceptable, what's criminalized and what's not, but that also led me on a path to doing community murals and public artwork. I met some mentors. One of my first mentors, Shaka Kali, whom I was a founding member of this mural program that we had, right across from Portland and Franklin, that whole community. And so then I started learning that art was also a tool to connect with others, that we, and share stories, and that it had power to bring people together, to highlight challenges, shared struggles that we go through, but also the dreams that we have, the things that we want to achieve in the world that we want to strive for. It became a vehicle for all these kind of conversations and change. And then you can go to the slide. It should be like a mural where there's a lot of kind of commotion and figures, and then orange graffiti lettering. Is that in there? Maybe one of the first ones.
Either way, this is incredible work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Portland.
Which one?
Is it at the top? I think it was in the beginning. That's not in here. That's all right. Should be on this slide. Nice work on this slide right here. Yeah. I was looking for another image because I included it, but there was a mural that's not there. Actually, no, it's still there. It's on 29th and 13th, I think, or 17th. Right in the Lake Street and the Greenway. And in 2009 was when that mural, right after the RNC protests. And that was kind of the first time that I seen militarized police enacted on the public, after the protests going on. And so we did a mural about that, and just I really think art has the power to reflect the times that we're in, and to be a companion to change making, and this has the power to, whenever you see change makers, you see art right alongside of that. I think that they go hand in hand. So when George Floyd was killed, is when another group that I'm part of was formed called Creatives at the Curfew. And the first time we gathered was right over there at Phelps Park. We started talking about what we could do, and we ended up painting a mural right there in the corner also. It's the mural that says, abolish police.
Hey.
On the other side, right, because it's like we're outraged, and so that was an outlet for us to express those feelings, and also like the goal of like wanting to heal, uplift, and invest in our communities. And that's what it said on the other side of the mural. So yeah, thank you for sharing what you said about like investing in Black ownership, because I didn't know that. And that's wild. You know what I'm saying? We need to be really investing in ourselves as a community, and like having that power to build generational wealth and build things for ourselves. So all these things that art has been the starting point for me to do that, and then go to the Seeds Project slides. Those in here?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, in 2012, 2013, I applied to a public art project that Christopher was talking about, the John Bigger Seed Project. And that was one of my first big public art projects, and I got to meet Christopher Aaron Deans, Christopher Harrison, and a bunch of other amazing local Black artists. And since then, that's helped open the door for me to have other opportunities, doing large-scale public artwork. And it's, honestly, and since then, as I mentioned earlier, I do some things with like clothing, textile art. I'm really just obsessed with art because it keeps me sane. I don't know what else I would be doing, but like I was talking about, like that, focusing my energy on that allows me to process so much that I couldn't otherwise. And I don't know what else I would be doing if it wasn't art, but in some form or another, in some discipline or another, just that power to be able to express yourself, I think it's so transformative. And as I mentioned earlier, it's taught me the power to focus my energy, and that's informed how I live life now as a father. Family's here, so raising children, being an educator, all these things. So, I talk about this instance of I collaborated on this mural with another artist that's in this neighborhood, Samuel Arrow Phillips, who's an architect, educator. He wrote a grant to talk about the city budget, and he said that he wanted to do a mural, and so he came to me, and we collaborated on this. And so this was on the Hub Bike Shop on Minnehaha High on Lake Street. But the pie chart in wheels reflects the city budget, and so over here is total budget funding, and then on the right side, you can see how that's being spent, and what's fixed and what's flexible, and it allowed people to tap in and learn about where their money is going, where their tax dollars are going. You know what I'm saying? Cool. How much money is going to police, how much is going to public works, and even though it looks like it's larger as a percentage there, when you start to really dive into it, I don't remember all the lingo and stuff, but like when there's a fixed portion of the budget, that can't be flexible at all. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to public funding and works, a lot of that was flexible and would easily dwindle down. And so that pie chart only reflects like the fixed portion, but in reality, a lot of the money is going to this department instead of so many other things that it could be doing to improve, our city and the community members that are in it. So I think, art also has the power to spread education and things like that. Can you go back to the full menu again, or the full? See if there's anything else. This is another mural I did with Creators After Curfew across from Roosevelt. Someone mentioned down the street, the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder Building, honoring people who have had an impact here in the Twin Cities, Gordon Parks. These are also some of the founders of the Minnesota Spokesman Reporter there. And then, I'm really interested in symbolism and abstraction too. Focusing on sigils and the power of like energy and how art makes it feel. I'm really interested in like leaning into like the healing power of art as well. And as I mentioned, I've been exploring sonic art. I've been endeavoring to be a musician lately as well, figuring out how to bridge those practices. Because I feel like there's a really big healing component to art as well, especially when it comes to music. And that's been a part of my practice all the time that I've been a visual artist as well. It's been like having that soundtrack to the movement, the soundtrack to your life, you know, and the power that it has. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah, thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Popeye. I'm born and raised here from Abbott. My grandmother lived on 35th and Columbus my whole life. I'm 33 years old. I've been doing art in all forms, creatively. Since I can remember, my grandma has drawings that I did of Dragon Ball Z and anime when I was like 9. Out here, I've been in the neighborhood my whole life. So after the George Floyd situation, I had a friend pass away down here on the corner named Denisha Columbus in a domestic violence situation. And at that time, I had a lot of radical energy. I was angry at a lot of things, and I didn't want to bring that energy to her service. So I looked for a different way to express that, and that's when I picked up a paintbrush and a paint can. Did a mural down there for her, and during the process of that, I was in a rush to get it done before the funeral because they was doing like a horse and carriage through the neighborhood. And during the time of me doing that, I just had a lot of people asking me like, oh, what's my budget or what's my price and things like that. And I'm like, I don't have one, you know, I don't have no pictures from that situation. I wasn't there for any photo ops or anything like that. And then once it was actually done, I had members of the community asking me like, where do I do my work and things like that. So that's how I started creating the community, expressing my feelings in a different way. Painting the George Floyd year after year has been helpful for myself, just being able to come out here and do something other than something that is de-escalating something, because that's how I started. Like 6 of us in front of the store with 400 people trying to burn it down. It was like, I'm not used to that, you know. But learning these difficult traits of other people and learning how to deal with people and their ways of expression helped me learn how to express myself through art. Because I've always been like one-dimensional in a way, like not really understanding somebody if I don't come from that walk of life. Art has helped me understand, like even though I haven't walked those shoes, from the energy that you're giving me through your expression, I can feel that and I can see that visually, artistically. So that's been my walk. So when I'm not out here doing art, I'm trying to find something else to do just to express myself, whether it's business or home decor for somebody. My passion is doing murals for loved ones, because I like to bring back that joy that somebody get to feel from somebody that they miss. And I'm trying to get on top of that before AI takes me out. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So I want to do in the studio, really, like I do guys across the street. Like that's my main goal, like in the studio where I can have displays of art and have kids that I work with through pledge come through and allow them to express themselves and learn that expression in art is important as well. Because when I grew up, all my family knew I was creative, but they didn't know that there's a lane for it, and they didn't know which way to push me and send me. So I want to get my hands in those fields. So the kids that I'm working with that are really great, they're not just like tattoos. You know, that's great, but I want them to know the expression of art. You know, other than just the business side of it. So that's where I'm at.
Hey. So I first have to say that I had the best job in the world. Woohoo! I have the opportunity constantly to work with really amazing, talented, passionate people that come to me quite often in the field of public art and say, I don't know how to do this, but this is my vision. And honestly, I mean, over the last 20 years, I figured a lot of things out, and every single bit of it I get to share. But I run into things every single day that I don't know how to do. I don't know how to build. I don't know how to manifest as your wild imaginings required. So it's a constant challenge, but it's really exciting, and I find it incredibly fulfilling work, and thank you for the opportunity. I also have to say that this person, who is not up here on the panel, Ms. Victoria Lowing, been that for me my entire artistic career. I will go to her and say, I have this idea and it looks like this and it has no form and it's chaos. And she gives it all of that form that it needs to manifest a place like this where we can continue to grow together and do all of the things. So, thank you. Amazing artists. Thank you. And throw us all the questions.
All right, now for the questions, and I just want to say, really, again, honored to have all of you here for this event, and all of you here. I mean, George Floyd Square has been on my mind for a long time. I've come to a number of meetings here that they're trying to plan, as people are trying to plan the future of the site. And being for 40 years in the public art field, moving into consulting, helping other people develop public art and public spaces for art, I could see what a challenging space and what a challenging problem it is to figure it out with all of the different interests and the conflicting issues that seem to overlap. And from my perspective, if we were just creating a memorial to George Floyd, it would be a very different story. But no, we're creating a public space, an intersection of the city, an intersection of 4 neighborhoods. It doesn't get much more complicated than this. And it's been frustrating for me witnessing the efforts that have gone into trying to figure it out. So I want to just put a couple questions to you folks about, what is your hope for George Floyd Square? And Marquise, I want to start with you, and this is not long answers. These are short because I want to open it up to, more of a dialogue and questions from the group. But it occurs to me, if there was a shared vision for this place, it wouldn't be so hard probably to get to a solution. Well, my guess is it isn't a shared vision. So, Marquise, I'm going to start with you just because of your background, familiarity, and you're serving as an ambassador. Again, the irony, with city support, what is your hope for George Floyd Square?
Well, to create a safe space where people can have some uncomfortable conversations about where we're going as a people. To me, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, and all the things that divide us. At our core, we're all humans. How can we create a space where we can reflect about a bunch of different things? Where can we create a space where we can talk about George Floyd while also helping people that are struggling with mental health, and homelessness, and addictions, and the artists? How can we combine all these great ideas, in even trauma, and put it in a space where we can all learn and grow? So we don't have to continue to make the same mistakes, because we've seen the George Floyds and Philando Castiles, and what's going to change? What are we doing? What are we talking about that's going to bring about change? Because if we're going with the status quo, we'll just continue to go through the motions of what this is. So I would hope that the People's Way will become a space where we talk about art, culture, green space, mental health, homelessness, resources, and have this be a resource hub, because we see all the people that are coming here for a bunch of different reasons. How can we make it where it's building up the community? and all the people that live and invest in this community from the surrounding neighborhoods. And I don't know if that answers.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that sums up a lot of topics into one as a kind of hub, a resource hub and a place for this conversation. Anybody else want to offer?
I also think we're dependent too much on the city. I mean, we're dependent too much on the government. Why would they solve the problems that they created? That doesn't make sense. I think people be on the job.
Yeah. Who else would like just?
Well, I was gonna say that, you know, gentrification isn't just a culture of people changing other cultures. It's people with money and power come into a space, right? And so there's that, which is the government that has their opinions about what the space should look like. There is the business owners in the space that want to thrive, right? This is their home. They've been here before, and some came after, and they all want to thrive, right? Then there's a community that don't want the messaging and the historical context of what's happened with George Floyd to be forgotten, right? And so if those entities, the most important parts of those entities can come together to have a rooted conversation in restoration of what that can look like, I think you'll have an answer. And the most difficult part of this problem for the solution is the adjutants that don't know anything about those three entities coming in and having an opinion. And that's the hardest piece.
I think it's obviously a very complex conversation and topic. And I was recently reminded that George Floyd's best friend just posted a tribute to him. I think George Floyd's birthday, I think, was recent, 2 days ago. So his best friend, Steven Jackson, who's an NBA player, posted a photo of him sitting at the George Floyd Memorial in Houston. It's a giant statue, bronze figure of George Floyd in Houston, in the community he grew up with, where his friends and family are celebrating his life. And it made me reflect on how maybe this conversation has been monopolized by a little bit of what I call Christopher Columbus syndrome, where a lot of people just discovered 38th in Chicago when George Floyd was murdered.
Right.
And are disregarding the 100-year Black history that we have in the square because something went viral and they were attracted to something they saw on their phone or their laptop. And now it's like 38th in Chicago started on March 2020 for them. Whereas I think it's like ironic to see in Houston, they've commemorated him, they celebrate him more, and like the family and friends of him are actually there celebrating. And I think in some ways it feels like maybe the conversation has gotten corrupted to be not really about specific tribute or memorial, and more so about like everyone's idea of what should happen on 38th in Chicago, as it sits outside of the idea of liberation. And I say that to say, like, I believe Black liberation specifically, firstly, I think like to honor George Floyd, I think would be rooted in Black liberation, right? Creating a community in which George Floyd would want to live in, would be proud of us to have. And I think fundamentally that starts with self-determination. And I think that's been the challenge that we've been faced with, is that self-determination has been pushed out of the conversation around George Floyd. Everyone else has an opinion about what needs to happen on 38th in Chicago, but I rarely see the community that's been here, born and raised here, been mentoring kids, coaching people, teaching. It seems like we've been getting pushed to the side of the conversation. Everybody else wants to use this as their moment to see their own vision. And I think fundamentally, I think it's an impossibility to see liberation if it's not through self-determination.
Well, to follow up, I mean, I was fascinated by the fact that you have a land trust come about. And I was imagining if the land trust had all of this property rather than the city, maybe that's a hope for you in the long run as well.
For sure, and I think we believe in sharing the community right now. Like there's many ways to skin the cat. So land trust is just my vision, but there's other ways to go about it. But fundamentally, I think it's about all working together to figure out how do we elevate collectively.
But that would be taking it out of the city's hands, I guess, one of the questions.
I don't think the city wants it in their hands.
What's that?
I don't think the city wants it in their hands at first.
So it might not be so hard to turn it into a land trust. Okay, go for it. Anybody else want to throw out their hope for George Floyd's work?
Yeah.
I would say, I would say, communication. I'm big on community and everything around here, but I feel like, from the beginning to now, even like how he said before George Floyd was a thing, the communication around here was top tier. Like, I'm just now coming into the Fire Arts Center, but I've known about all the activities that's going on from the Fire Arts Center just from word of mouth around the areas, the Hunzer, the library, whether it's Green Central, Sabathia, Powderhorn, Hale, whatever, like all, like the communication around here was just real tight. And then after the George Floyd, it seemed like it got, maybe because I got involved head first, it seemed like it got real stronger. Like I said, that could be because I'm actually in it now. And I think if we focused on our communication with each other, no matter what our mission is, our game plan, or what our wants is, communicating with each other about that would stop or prevent a lot of stepping on each other's toes, and it would prevent the main focal point of what this space should be to not be so diluted. You know what I'm saying? Like, the focal point is Black liberation, because that is why we are here, the fall of the Black man. So if we all communicated, no matter where your position is, what are your political beliefs, communication could rule us as a nation. And I think that's what we should focus on in this space the most.
No, for me, it's just figure it all out. You know, cut all this BS, just figure it out, because there's a lot of, business people here. There's a lot of people who live here, who've lived here all their lives. They have, possibly generations of their families, here. Just figure it out, because this is an important space. Something happened here 5 years ago that, that's actually now part of history, and it shouldn't be forgotten. George Floyd shouldn't be forgotten. All those people out there who have, been, terrorized, murdered, not just here, but across the country and across the world. They don't need to be forgotten. This can be a space that can speak to that. But we have to figure it out. We have to make this space work for everyone, and really right now it's about action now. Everybody's been sitting on their hands. Oh, well, is there trucks going to be able to come through here? Or wow, what's going to happen to the businesses? Is it going to get closed off and be a cul-de-sac? What's it going to be? Just figure it out and just do it. Just get out there and do it and make it work. There's enough intelligence here, brain trust here, to make things work. Just use it, utilize it, and make it a workable, community space that people can come and, give, remember, George Floyd and all of the people who this space speaks to, and then, become a place where they can celebrate and mourn, and, and it can be also a place where people can learn, which I think is a very important aspect. It's got to be a place where people can learn to have and pass it on to the next generations. So I think that's really what this space needs to be about. So for me, it's not about talking, it's about action.
Layer on top, I don't know if you guys have been familiar with the conversations that have been happening in Memphis specifically, but there's a whole notion in Memphis happening that around the city of Memphis feeling like they still have never recovered from the assassination of Martin Luther King. And I don't know if you guys know, but Memphis has had the worst murder rate for the last 3 or 4 years. So 60 years later, after assassinating Martin Luther King, that city still feels like they're reeling. And that's become the identity of Black death, has been the identity of Memphis. And so as much as they try to create a tribute to Martin Luther King, they have the African American Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. But unfortunately, the stain of that has led to where 40, 50, 60 years later, Black death is at an all-time high in Memphis today. And so I think just having a critical thought around how does this have lasting impact on how we think and move forward as a community should be a little bit, I think it's a little deeper than just a memorial or of sorts.
It's just, it's all so compelling and raises so many questions that I'm sure some of you have a few you'd like to ask. For me, having the Fire Arts Center at the epicenter of Georgia Floyd Square and the outburst of art activities and creative interventions and temporary programming and plantings and guerrilla gardening, I mean, organically, this place has become the most unique public space in the region, I mean, in the state. And if not for the creative community though, if not for the creative industries and the creative communities, wouldn't be that at all. So this is a major hub, and I'm just so impressed with what the Fire Arts Center has been able to do, not only to hold it together and keep a space here, but to be so generous to have it become such a resource for the community. And take a few questions. Do you have a question, Ted?
Well, kind of.
Speak loud enough so people in the back.
To have a group of artists who are talking like they want not to lose the iconography and ideas that surrounded this as an historical thing, as well as a prescient Mao thing. To see a group of artists talk about that, it's like the beginning of composition. That always takes me over, I'm sorry, but I've kind of lost it here. Emotionally, this is really, really good.
Happens to me every day.
Raise your hand if you have a question for anyone on the panel or just in general, please. Or a comment.
I got a quick one for Asa. How come it's named Plot Gallery? Is there a...
The plot is an acronym for Pyramids Lined Our Territory. The idea is to think about when we're kings and queens in Africa and just we have pyramids that lined our territory.
Cool.
I was also an architecture major in college, so plot, you know, it's rooted in the idea of ownership still.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to say just one thing about the history in my experience, which is only about the last 20 years. I know it goes much, much deeper. I learned first about the Renaissance Initiative, which happened in the 80s, led by Andrea Jenkins and a small cohort. And then there was the Small Area Development Plan. There's Thrive, there's 38th Street United, and it goes on and on and on. What all of those initiatives have found is that this community has that brain trust, has the knowledge, knows what they need, and knows what is needed to get there. Over and over and over, they've said it. And this is maybe the first time the city or the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, has said, oh, maybe we should listen. Decades of disinvestment. But this community, with this amount of talent, power, intellect, skill, it's the resources in this community are astounding. It's all here already. All they have to do is support it.
Well, you have to
We'll get it done.
articulate it. You have to articulate it.
And they have
As a
over and over and
proposal
over.
for the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And that's difficult, but possible.
No, and I have to say, you know, as somebody who's played public art consultant for cities wanting whole, you know, public art master plan, I've been in the middle of, you know, all kinds of conflicted conversations and trying to forge consensus. And that's what's needed here. It's forging consensus. And it's not easy, but it's hard to do from within. It's really hard to do from within. I know that.
And what a rare community to have done it, I don't know, 5 times in the last 20 years that I've seen with my own eyes. They have consensus here. This community knows what it needs.
So maybe it's about putting up boundaries so that other people can let you be to build what it is you need to build. And hands off. Now, I know you got a lot of tourists that come from all over the world, and they will, I mean, maybe Marquise could speak to this, but managing the outside forces seems to be the biggest challenge.
That's it.
And tourists are one of them. I just want to say it's not just the city or developers or the businesses saying we need to keep in business. That can be an outside force to prevent you from becoming what you want to become too. But it seems like some way to create a barrier, for lack of a better word, to even allow you the space to become what you want to become, what you need.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is just fear, just getting over the fear. Just saying, you know what, have the courage to take that step. Guess it's like, jumping off of a diving board for the first time. You know the water's gonna be cold and you're real high up, but once you do it, it's nothing. So it's just convincing people to just take that step and say, you know what, let's try it. If it fails, that's okay, we'll do something else. But I think it's really just, saying that this plan will work and having that courage to do it. And out of that comes reformation.
I think to that point too is I think people have a really hard time uncentering themselves specifically. I was in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and then one of the community members was explaining to me what she wants for the square and the block, because she wants to be able to bring her kids up here, and I want it like this so I can bring my kids up here. And it was just ironic to me because there's 5 kids right now that live up here, or right now today. So it's like what you want to feel safe for you to bring your kids, but you're kind of you're like not acknowledging that there's 5 kids right now running up and down the block every day that live here. And it's just like the centering of someone's dream versus the centering of someone's reality every day. I think that's been part of the toil that we face up here.
I think that's a very important point to discuss, because when you talk about hurt, wounds, you talk about trauma, you get your leg cut off, right? It's gonna take a certain time to heal. And healing takes time, right? I get a cut, a scrape on my finger's gonna heal quicker, but if I get a leg cut off, right, a murder that happened in my space, it might take a little longer for some to heal, and others, it may take a different time. So that timeline may look a little different, and the healing process may look a little different for certain people. And that's where people are speaking from. They're speaking out of that space that they need to have the healing and the conditions in which it would happen. I think is really where folks are kind of speaking from, because a murder is a big thing. And in the Black community, we've been seeing this for such a long time. Now, you guys spoke to this a little bit earlier, but the murder of George Floyd was the first time that I feel that white America saw the blank face of a white officer, stoic, right, without any empathy, kill a Black man on camera, on TV, right? It was shown all over the world, right? It's the first time. We saw shadows and Rodney King, it was dark. We saw these other things, right? We've seen it up close and personal a lot, but for everybody else to see it, now you gotta believe it, right? And so that's a huge wound. That's a huge hurt and harm, right? And so now everybody that's got a bleeding heart is coming in, and I empathize with you, and I'm hurt, and I'm in the community, and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling that. It doesn't matter what race you are. Now I'm feeling it. And so that healing is gonna look a little different for everybody. And so that process has to be a part of this narrative. You can't get there without it. Because there'll still be people hurt if you shift or change anything outside these doors, right? And so it has to be a part of the conversation.
I think that's a really good point. It was a turning point for so many people. Me personally, I just realized how screwed I was by the education I was given and the lack of knowledge I actually got. And it was that realization made me hurt and made me realize I didn't know shit. Why was that concealed all this time? And now the veil's off, So it has historic value, if not for nothing else, what you just talked about, right? Because it stands out from all these other examples that didn't have the same global impact, not even local impact, right? So there's something about that point that can't be lost as you go forward, right? It was like the Big Bang, you know?
Yeah. I know. I just want to say something that, just, my being here, I'm sort of like a traveling musician and a tourist that, because of the COVID time, found myself here in Minneapolis. And I think this is such a pivotal event of how this community has galvanized and has come together and realized this in reaction of the trauma that is America. That we've all lived this, my adult life, all of our adult lives, and how we're dealing to heal and go on and thrive and still function in a dysfunctional society. So at the same time, and I think I just want to say, you should give yourself grace because the task is huge. It's huge, and you're doing it, and that's what's really was that you're doing it. It's happening. It's functioning, and yeah, I'm like kudos, and I don't want to feel like, you know, I'm living my life also. I don't want to feel like I'm going to monopolize off of that, but I do what I do as a creative artist, as a, you know, functioning and speaking my piece and my truth, and the connections or the loved ones that I have in this nation because I'm, you know, a traveler, and so that it's remarkable. I think, yeah, I just want to just give that to you, that you should give yourself grace for what is happening there.
You know, for those of you who've been embedded in George Floyd Square for the 5 years, you maybe haven't seen the evolution of this space as objectively as somebody like me who comes like, you know, twice a year and sees this blossoming of arts activities and new art spaces and new businesses, and it's amazing what's happened just in the last year is what I'm trying to say. And maybe it's overdue that people start recognizing what George Floyd Square is becoming on its own, and would continue to do if we did nothing else, you know?
I have a question. I'm arriving a bit late, so I've missed much of what has been said. However, what I'm hearing, I'm wondering, is there a reimagining of George Floyd Square that's happening? And if so, like, who's leading the charge for that?
That's a long story.
What resources are being poured into the space? I see a panel of artists, public art makers. Are y'all going to be involved in some of what's happening, or are y'all showing up today to kind of just talk about your art? Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually coming to 5 minutes to wrapping up this conversation. But the intersection of public art, George Floyd Square, and this facility has really been the focus of our discussion and our discovery and awareness building today. But George Floyd Square is a work in progress.
Hey.
Yeah, it is.
And moving in the speed of justice.
It's called the living memorial. Because
It is. It's totally organically living on its own without any outside support. You just look and see what it is already, and it's amazing. If you just take stock of what it is right now, it's amazing on its own. Because in any other situation, and I don't know about Memphis, that would be an interesting parallel. Like, what did the city try to do, you know, to create the space versus what did the community want to do to make it their space? But the city has a lot to learn, okay? Let's just put it that way. And the irony is, you know, they murdered George Floyd, and then they're trying to manage the development of the memorial space for George Floyd. It's just not a workable equation, okay? But what I think we could all take away from here is that public art is a kind of power, whether it's permanent or fixed, performative or visual, right? It's a kind of power, and you can take that power and put it to use. right? You can address problems, you can create functionality, you can address so many issues you guys have already talked about, right? It's a kind of power that you wield as a creative. And as one of you said, anybody can do that. It's not like it's restricted to a few people. You don't even have to be an artist to participate in public art and make a difference in your community. And yet, that isn't broadly known, that it's that empowering, and that right now we have the liberty to wield that power. And let's just hope we can keep that liberty, right?
So just to tap in on what the sister's saying, how many times have you seen a panel with 5, 2, 4, 6 black men that are from this community? I haven't seen that yet until now. We can all say we have ties prior to George Floyd's murder from this community and all trying to get back. You don't see that. That's rare, which is a good thing.
Can we get a word of affirmation or gratitude from each of the panelists before we go? For those of us who came late, some voices we didn't even hear. Can we just hear one thing from each person, please?
Resilient.
Yes. Who wanna start?
Compassion.
Well, one of my favorite posts is, you don't have to be the best to be the best you can be.
I think unity, I don't know, unity, I think that was like established in some ways here today, you know. I think there's unity on the panel, unity with everyone in the room here. I heard some really interesting things when I first came in and here, and even like honestly when you guys are sharing your calendar of arts events of like cool things happening, I was like, man, I wish it was in an email somewhere. How do I get all this
It can be.
united information in one space?
That's next, that's coming.
Yeah, so I just appreciate the unity in this space and unity in the community. I think for the most part, we do have a really tight community that does want to see everyone on the. We all want to evolve and elevate collectively, right? And I see that consistently in the community. So that's one thing I would say that's been a blessing to experience.
Yeah, I would say to echo some of that too, just that there's a common cause that we've all come together for collectively, and then through all our different paths, like just seeing the commonalities and coming together and being communication and intention, be intentional.
I would say this is the culmination of a lot of conversations that we've been having recently, and one has been, look what we have here. Look at the creativity, the problem solving. I am absolutely thrilled to be a facilitator, to be a part of all of these conversations, and helping to figure out what's next and support.
Invite the Arts District for this meeting.
Yeah, just one more thing. I think shared humanity is key. Shared humanity, okay? And support, that's the key. And art can do that. Art can do that. So I think the important thing is to support the creative community. And that doesn't always have to be money. It can be just showing up. Right. So that's all we ask, is that you show up.
Well, I want you all to know. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, actually. What do you think about, like, so when other artists come from out of state to come paint, like, underneath Hiawatha and Lake Street and behind by that little, like, the Target with the Ella Planet Fitnesses and all of that. You've seen those murals.
Yeah.
I met Jairo Vega or whatever. They're not from here.
Some of those artists are from here.
Yeah.
Some of those artists.
They're not from here. Jairo Vega.
I'm sorry.
You're with what's her name?
No, Danny, he works in this space and is working on that mural.
Oh, the one under the bridge,
Hiawatha.
under Hiawatha, yeah. So like, I just wanted to address that part.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but why don't you have that conversation with these folks after,
Yeah.
because we're actually at stop.
Oh,
time.
really? Okay, good.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you again to all of our presenters today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.